You're seeing it everywhere online right now. Everyone is talking about 50-year mortgages in the real estate industry. You've probably heard some mixed opinions. This video is for the people who might be considering a 50-year. They're curious, can this get me into a house? And on the surface, it does look like it could be a great solution. Who doesn't want a lower payment, especially the buyers who are right on the fence of affordability? However, my passion is not to sell you a loan or make you get into a house you can't afford. It's to give you data and facts so you can make the best financial decision possible. So I did what I always do. I ignored the hype. I dug into the numbers. I did some research on the facts. And what the numbers show is a little different than what you're hearing online from a lot of people. It turns out that for most people, the 50-year loan is probably not the right choice. So stay with me as I'm going to dig into the details about what's going on with this. What do we know so far? What is actually true versus opinion? And what do the numbers actually look like with a 50-year loan? All this data can be confusing. And the truth is, you get a lot of opinions. I have people just like you reaching out to me every week to find out what's really going on and how they can actually plan a home purchase the smart way. So if you have any questions about the home buying process, the things I'm going over today, or even into my other videos, please reach out to me. My contact information is in the description below. You can schedule a free intro call. You can email me, text me, or just call me yourself. I don't care how you reach out to me, just do it, and we can actually sit down, have a conversation. I can answer your questions directly. So let's dive in. Where did this even come from? About a week ago, President Trump sent out a post saying that they're working on a 50-year mortgage. And then Bill Pulte, the president of the Federal Housing Administration, sent out a post on X, I don't know if it's called a tweet anymore, confirming this and saying, and I quote, "Thanks to President Trump, we are indeed working on the 50-year mortgage, a complete game changer." So what we do know is that this is in the works. The FHA, Federal Housing Administration, is working on a 50-year loan package. Now, this isn't something brand new. Current banks could offer this right now if they wanted to. It just wouldn't be federally backed. That's why the FHA has to get involved. Once it's federally backed, it can be bought and sold on the secondary market, which right now a 50-year loan would have to be a portfolio loan. That's all we really know. It's not a done deal. It's not finalized. You can't just go get a 50-year loan right now unless a bank is going to give you a private loan, a portfolio loan. So let's dive in what we don't know. And the really big question we don't know is, what is the interest rate going to be on a 50-year loan? When you go from a 15-year to a 30-year loan, you're jumping about 0.5% in interest rate. And there's a lot of people that are speculating that the jump from a 30-year to a 50-year will be somewhere between 0.25 and 0.5%. This is to cover the extra risk that the additional 20 years presents to the investor. You have 20 more years to possibly default on the loan. They want to make more money because of that. I've seen a lot of graphs and things go out there that are comparing a 30-year versus a 50-year at exactly the same rate. And while this is nice, but it doesn't reflect what most people will believe to be reality, because if you can get the same rate for a longer period, I do think that could be an advantage. We'll get into why I don't really believe that later in the video. But short term, I mean, if you could save a couple $100s in your mortgage, why wouldn't you? So in fact, behind me, I have a setup here. If we're looking here in DFW at a $400,000 house with a 10% down payment, $40,000, you would finance $360,000 at a 6.25% interest rate, about what the current rate is. And if you did that, you would save about $250 per month. Your payment on a 30-year would be $2,216. Your payment on a 50-year at the same interest rate would be $1,966. But over the life of the loan, you would pay $378,000 more in interest than the 30-year. The 30-year, you would already be paying more than what you financed. It's already around $370,000 in interest. So you're effectively doubling the interest that you would pay. So when you see these graphs and they're comparing a side by side of what this would look like, this looks kind of appealing. Who wouldn't want to save $250 a month? However, when you look at a different setup of the same house, the same down payment, but when you start actually comparing a 6.25% interest rate to a 6.75% interest rate, that raise in interest rate, what does that look like for your payment? Well, they get a lot closer. So you still save some money, but now it's only about $119 per month. So you cut it more than half of what you would have paid. And because of the lower payment and the higher interest, you're actually paying $460,500 more in interest than the 30-year. Not total, more than the 30-year. So this starts looking like a lot worse of a deal, doesn't it? I mean, $119 a month is not nothing, but over the long-term course of a loan, it's kind of negligible. And so I don't love that already when you start actually applying what it would probably look like in the real world. After comparing the difference in payments, I thought to myself, well, okay, that's great. You start saving per month. Well, what's the big deal about this extra interest? Everyone's like, well, I'm not going to pay twice the amount of interest. Well, right, I get that. No one wants to do that. But no one also stays in their house that long. I did the research, and on average, right, people are staying in their homes on average about 11 to 12 years, closer to 12, like 11.8. There's two big factors with that. The first is the older population has, they're aging in place. They don't really want to move again, and there's a lot of them, and so that's helping pull the average up a little bit. And the other part is the golden handcuffs that everyone keeps talking about, the people who don't want to move because they have such a low interest rate. So even just 10 years ago, the average was between 6 to 8 years, closer to 7 really, whereas now it's closer to 12. So we've almost doubled the amount of time people are staying in their homes in a relatively short period of time. So then I started looking at, well, okay, people are staying in their homes longer. How long are they taking to actually pay their mortgage off? Because obviously, again, if I had a 50-year note or a 50-year loan, I'd want to refinance out of that. And so on average, about 88% of people pay their loan off much sooner. Only 12% of people take the full 30 years to pay their loan off. So that's going to be a real small subset of people that are staying that long and taking that long to pay their loan off. In fact, most people will refinance their mortgage on average every 8 years. Quick moment here. If you've gotten this far, thank you very much. Please hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. So again, this all led me down the path of like, well, what's the big deal? Obviously, no one's going to pay 50 years out on a note. So how many people would actually get to actually paying the double interest rate? Probably not many. So I ran the numbers, obviously. And so this is how I wanted to talk about monthly net savings. So your monthly savings and payments were that $250 versus the $110, I believe it was, minus the extra monthly interest equals your total monthly savings, your net savings. So when I ran the numbers, if you use the same interest rate, so both loans at 6.25%, man, actually this doesn't look too bad. The graph keeps pulling up because you're saving more monthly off your payment than you are paying an extra interest. So that's a net savings to you. You could invest that, it's extra spending money, whatever you need. So I thought to myself again, this is really not that bad of a deal if you're smart with your money. In total, over the first 15 years of the loan, so if people are moving right around 12, this is a little bit of puffer time, and for the first 15 years, you were going to save about $16,000 if the interest rate stays the same, which we already discussed probably will not happen. So again, don't be misled by people who want to compare these loan options at the same interest rate, because the 50-year loan might start looking a little attractive. But what happens if we move to the different interest rate, 6.25 versus 6.75? And when we do that, that looks very different. So remember, you're saving less per month. In year 1, you're already losing money. In year 2, that gets worse. And in year 3, worse. And then, so over the first 15 years of the loan, you will have lost $36,000. That is a huge amount to lose. So once again, when you're using more realistic numbers, like with the interest rates, caveat here, this could change. The FHA could come out and say, hey, we are going to do it at the same interest rate. Highly doubtful. Or it might just be 6.25, and these numbers might look a little different. So this doesn't look great. You might lose $36,000 over the first 15 years. That between year 10 and 12, it's a little closer, but you're still losing a big chunk of money versus what you would have on a 30 year. So, but I still kept thinking to myself, okay, well, that's true. Up front, we know that the 50 year is going to be worse off for buyers, but what about someone who's right on the fence? They're right there at affordability. They want a house. Isn't homeownership going to be better for them overall versus renting? Because you're still building equity, right? So I dug into the numbers. And this is what it looks like when equity gain by year with no home appreciation. I wanted to compare it flat. Let's say you buy your home at $400,000 and it never gets any more expensive. Historically, not what happens, but let's just play that game. What's the difference here? How much are you actually paying off? Well, this was a little shocking for me. So if by year 5 you need to sell, keep in mind the average cost to sell is 5 to 7% of the sales price. If you had a 30-year mortgage, you would be breaking even basically. So you would have paid in all that time, you would have made 60 on-time payments, and you would have basically broken even with the sales cost. That sucks, but it is what it is. But by year 10, you've made 120 on-time payments, and you would leave that with money in your pocket. Now, of course, this is money you've put into it. Again, we're not factoring home price appreciation in this, but you wouldn't be upside down. By year 10, you would still be upside down with a 50-year mortgage. By year 15, you would basically barely be breaking even or possibly losing a little bit of money depending on where your sales costs land. But with a 30-year mortgage, you would have a nice chunk that you've been putting into this over time. This is my strongest objection to the 50-year loan is that you don't build equity fast enough. And if you have to sell for a job relocation, divorce, death, one of the big life events, maybe you just want a bigger house, maybe it's not something negative. Your family's growing and you want a bigger place. Well, if it's within 5 years, you're stuck with that place with a 50-year. You're gonna have to wait almost to year 15 if the house is unappreciating. Now, that being said, home prices over almost any 10-year period in the US history have gone up. Even when you look at the housing crisis of 2007, from the peak in 2007 to when it recovered in 2016, it was about 9 years. I know there's a lot of people out there that are very bearish on the real estate market right now. They think prices are going to keep dropping for the foreseeable future. I don't have a crystal ball. I do know that over a 10-year period, it's very unlikely. Over a 15-year period, it would be unheard of. It would be the first time in US history that had happened. So with that being said, I ran the numbers with a 1%, very modest, 1% price appreciation on the house itself, year over year. And this is what it looked like. So with only a 1% price appreciation on average, some years might be more or less, with just an average of 1% by year 5, with a 50-year mortgage, you have a 7.1% equity. All of a sudden, that's way better. And then if you get to 10 years, you're at 15%. So that's a very, very good chunk of equity. Now remember, look, go back. You've only paid off 3%. So by year 10 at 15, that's a 12% gain. That's 12% that you've gained in the house that you didn't invest. Same thing with when you get to year 15. If you stay 15 years, you only paid 6% of that, but we have 24% here. That's 18%. Now, obviously, the 30 year is much better. The 50-year mortgage is not a very good deal. I think it's probably the wrong bet for like 8 out of 10 buyers. However, in that rare case where you are right on the fence of affordability, meaning like maybe you could buy a house, but that couple $100 really makes a big difference in your budget, this could be the right solution for you. If, and here's the big ifs, you can commit to staying between 10 and 15 years. Just like in my last slide here, at 3 years or at 10 years and 3% paid, that sucks. But if you can get to 10 to 15 years with hopefully even just modest price appreciation, you should be okay. If you are in any sort of volatile work situation or possibility of moving, I would not recommend it. Obviously, if you can afford a 30-year over a 50-year, you should do that instead. If you could afford a 15-year over a 30-year, I would highly recommend that instead. Most people opt for a 30-year. It really comes down to your situation and what is best for you. That's why you need someone that will run the numbers and give you the facts so you can make the best financial decision possible.